All right, everybody. I'm Kyle Müller. Today we're joined by Marcus B Whitt, former recon man of CCS and SOG veteran. Mr. Whitt, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, and I want to clarify something. I was not recon. I was in the first exploitation company.
My mistake. Mr. Whitt was on the Hatchet Force, or the Exploitation Company of CCS.
That is correct. Yeah, we were with. They called it Exploitation Company there. I think at CCC and CCN they may have called it Hatchet Force, but that's what we call it at CCS. At least when I was there, from 1969 to 1970.
Your Exploitation Company, right? A lot of people wonder what first company served as, because we know second company was predominantly had a non-security company. What nationality was your exploitation company?
Were yards.
Yours was yards of what tribe, sir?
Yards. That's correct.
Of what tribe? Rade. And where would you recruit the yards for your exploitation company from?
All over that part of all around Bambi-Tuit area, which was in Jucor.
I see. For your assignments to CCS, you would infiltrate into Cambodia, am I correct?
That is correct. That was our AL.
And what was your responsibility as the exploitation company as opposed to a recon team?
That's how I came into CCS out of Okinawa, out of First Group. And when I hit Vietnam, I actually had orders for an A site, but was quickly, those orders were quickly deleted. Gosh, can't get it out here. And I was given the option of going to a light unit or going to MACV SOG. Of course, I took MACV SOG.
Now you went through SF training group, am I correct?
That is correct. I was there in 1968 to the very early, I think it was February when I left, of 1969. And went from there, after I graduated from training group, went to Okie.
And how long did you serve in SOG?
I was there a year.
So that's from
69 to 70.
I see.
Got there October of 60, November, no, that's right, October of 69 to October of 1970.
Now for your exploitation company, how many men would you have on the company itself?
There were 100 or thereabouts.
100 men, and was there different roles and different sections of the company?
Yes, there was. Of course, I was involved with. I wasn't one of the leaders. We had. Let me think about this a minute. I believe we had a total of 5 Americans in Exploitation Company, and let's see. First Sergeant Williams was our first sergeant, and I cannot for the life of me off the top of my head. I've actually got a picture of the sign. Let me see if I can find that while we're talking. Remember the CO of First Company at the time. I was there anyway. So originally I was assigned to the talk, and then we were doing radio projections out of the Tactical Operations Center, and then we also did lots of time on what we call the radio relay site that was near the Cambodian border, which up on a little hill site. So whenever the exploitation company had an operation, I was usually the one that went as a radio operator for the exploitation company. You there?
Yep, I'm here. Let's continue. Would you say your yards were different than the other ethnic groups on the camp? Like, let's say their relationship with Nungs, the other ethnic groups.
Well, actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, second exploitation company was not Nuns, it was Cambodians.
Oh, they were Cambodians.
Yes, the Nuns, I believe, were up at CCN.
I see. Now, for your let's continue. For the if I remember correctly, what do you say? There were incidents with yards and like other ethnic minorities in
Well,
CCS.
there was a situation that I can remember that happened at the club where the yards got into it with the Vietnamese. The camp policy, for whatever reason, the main club allowed Vietnamese in the club. They did not allow the yards and the Cambodians. That was not something that, certainly that I made a decision on. And we had a situation in which the Vietnamese and the yards got into it. There were some shots fired. I don't remember anybody being killed at that time, but those of us Americans stepped in and quelled the situation.
That sounds.
They did not get along, no. Vietnamese and nor the Cambodians nor the yards, certainly not the yards, because they were indigenous group to Vietnam, much like the Native American is to the United States.
That sounds like much less than the poker incident that involved some yards getting killed over poker at CCN, I believe.
Okay, yeah, no. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't at some point in time that at CCS there wasn't an incident, but not while I was there.
So at CCS, your overall role was in Military Region 2, 3, am I correct?
2.
2?
Yeah.
Okay. And your assignment...
Central Highland.
And how often would you launch operations as a hatch force as opposed to a recon company or a recon team?
Well, I would say during the year I was there, now I'm not saying I went on all of them, but I participated in probably 6 large-scale operations.
Okay, can you list...
Well, about every couple of months, unless there was a bright light situation where we go in to either help a team or down pilots, whatever that may be.
Can you list any off the top of your head?
You mean any what?
Any operations you remember from the 6 operations?
I remember what the operations did or were supposed to do. I do not remember the names of them necessarily. But I can remember one in which we did, they called it Stay Behind. In fact, we did this twice when I was there. And we did what's called Stay Behind. And that is a situation where we would infiltrate into Cambodia just across the line, and we would have embedded in our company 2 or 3 recon teams. And then we would go into an RON, remain overnight, and the next morning we'd get up and move, and the one of the recon teams, based on where they were supposed to insert from, would stay behind. So we would get up. Of course, whenever you move a large number of men, there's no way, unlike a recon team, you're going to make noise. And that was the whole idea. So the North Vietnamese would follow our noise, and the recon team would infiltrate and melt into the jungle, so to speak. And I did 2 of those.
Would you say the Hatchet Force or the Exploitation Company was more like offensive than the recon company?
I would say that's what they were designed for. Yes. They were because of their size and because of the ability for them to make noise. Don't want to, but do. We were certainly there to kind of draw others, the other side, into some kind of contact with us.
Across the fence, what would you carry as a um, exploitation force company, and how would that differ from a recon man? Because I know from Doc Patchett, he was on Bright Light team. He didn't carry a rucksack, but he carried very light equipment. What would you carry?
Well, of course, I carried a PRC 74, which is a pretty good sized radio and extra batteries. I carried an M4, a car 15. I carried, sometimes would carry a cutoff M79, and multiple, anywhere from 20 to 30 magazines. Probably run about 10 M40 rounds, grenades, and gosh, I probably carried 6 grenades, some Willie Peter Weiss phosphorus flechette rounds, both in the grenades and in the M40, or excuse me, the 40. Along with, a couple of packets of meals and a couple of pairs of dry socks.
Would you say that's more lighter than your average recon man?
No, I would not, because of the size of the radio I took.
Of course.
And the batteries that I carried.
And would you how much stuff would your yards carry? Because I know they won't carry as much as the Americans.
No, they would carry similar to what a recon team Indig would. They would carry their meals and of course their ammo and C4. A lot of us carried C4, and so I don't remember exactly what the yards carried. They all mostly carried the car 15.
I see. And for clothing, you wore the standard issue olive drab uniform?
Most of the time I wore a sterile set of jungle fatigues that were, well worn. Put some black spray paint on them, kind of make a pattern of camouflage out of them. That's all I ever wore. I used a bandana for a hat. I wouldn't wear a hat. I used
I see.
Actually, one of the slings that the medic carried in a packet. I don't know what that's called.
You use like a head wrap around your head, right?
That is correct.
If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. See if this is what similar to what you carry. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
I'm starting to see it now.
Yeah. Is this similar to what you wore right here?
Similar, yes. I didn't wear the leggings.
The leggings were more popular with CCS. Am I correct?
Well, the leggings were more popular with the recon teams.
Was it often used in CCS or was it only CCN?
No, I think some of the CCS recon teams used them.
I see. And how would you spray down these uniforms and make them look worn with your black spray paint?
Well, of course, number one, all you'd have is have to wash them a lot to get them, I say, flexible in a certain degree. You certainly didn't want to put starch in them. And just take a regular old black can of spray paint, just like you see this old soldier here.
I see.
There wasn't any certain way to spray it. I mean, it's just black spray paint.
And who would you learn to spray your uniform from?
Some of the previous older guys that were in Exploitation Company.
What would your designations be for Exploitation Company? Would it be like 10, 11, 12, etc., or would it be different?
No, mine. I was called a 1-2 because I was a radio operator.
All right. And your team leader was 1-0, right?
Yes.
And the rest of your yards will be 0, and then whatever designation there would be.
You know, that's probably true. I honestly don't remember. You know, it's been a while ago.
From your era, it will be a stable rig you would wear over your equipment.
Yes, yes, I wore the stable rig. Yes.
After that,
I used it one time.
one time to extract.
Yes, that's correct.
Your infiltration would be from UH1 Hueys, UH1 slicks. Am I correct?
Yes, a lot of times the Exploitation Company too. We would go from Bammy to it, CCS, fly into the Boot Op Special Forces camp, and stage out of there. And Boot Op sat right on the Cambodian border.
So that was one of the launch sites for CCS.
Yeah, Quan Loy was one of the launch sites that I went to, but so was Boot Op. And there were others. I never participated in any of the other sites that I remember.
How would you spend your free time as a CCS person on FOB 5?
Well, when I wasn't doing that, I was either on the radio relay site or I was at the talk, doing messages from there to Saigon.
And then how would you train up your troops? Would you use immediate action drills, or would you train them a different way?
No, that's the same way. Of course, I didn't do the training of those. I was kind of one of the trainees, so to speak, because I was an attachment every time they went.
And how much do you trust your yards? Because I know from
I did that. I don't think there's any question that, for the most part, because of your relationship and the way you handled them, the way you dealt with them, you pretty much trust them 100%.
Because I know from Operation Tailwind, the Nungs threatened to leave the hatchet force behind.
Well, and I've heard about that, but as far as having that happen at CCS, can't tell you 100% that it didn't, but while I was there, it never did.
I see. Now moving on. Do you have any memorable memories over the fence, across the fence in Cambodia?
Well, in fact, it wasn't really across the fence. We were, myself and two other Americans, along with I think there were a couple of squads of First Company. We were going in to assist in a bright light, and we were on a Blackbird, which was C-130 painted black that actually the CIA was responsible for. We flew from Bammy to it going to set into the Boot Op, the airstrip there. And as we started to land, we got hit with a 51 cal that went from one end of the aircraft to the other. The crew chief on the aircraft was hit. I got some shrapnel. I don't think anybody else got anything that I remember. I think one of the yards may have. And it knocked out the hydraulic system for the wheels. And so they were having a difficult time of getting the nose wheel down. So we flew from Boot Op. They got airspeed, got back up in the air. We went and headed to, I believe it was Cameron Bay. If I remember right, Cameron had the longest runway. And we spent the entire time flying from Boot Op to Cameron. The pilots would gain altitude and then cut the engines and drop, trying to shake the nose wheel down. We did that all across Vietnam. The pilots were never successful in getting it down. And so we were instructed, apparently, to go in on foam runway. And so that's what we did into Cameron Bay. I guess that's, we're always, all of us, I think, can say honestly that we were scared. Anytime you got into it, you were scared. You were not scared in the sense that you were unable to perform your mission. You just got high adrenaline and realized you were in a really sketchy situation. But that was one time when you had no control over it. It's not like you could shoot back at the enemy. So we were all concerned we weren't going to make it when we went on that runway. But fortunately, we did. It landed and skidded it down the runway. We got off the aircraft, and I think Sergeant Williams and myself, and gosh, I can't remember the other guy. I think it was Lanham, but I want to swear to it. Got off the aircraft and put a perimeter of the yards around the aircraft, and Sergeant Williams instructed us to not let anybody on the aircraft. We understood that because of the high classification that aircraft was. And the Air Force general that was responsible for Cameron Bay came out and said he wanted to go on their aircraft and check it out. And Sergeant Williams advised him that was impossible, that he could not get on the aircraft. And I'll never forget, he turned to all of us when the general kept insisting and told us to lock and load our weapons. And the general got back in his Jeep, not very happy man, and left. But he didn't come back either.
So that was Sergeant Williams, and you were, I'm assuming, either a specialist or a sergeant?
I was a buck sergeant.
So an E5 pay grade.
Yeah.
So the 51 millimeter anti-aircraft, do you think it came from across the border, or was it?
Oh yeah, there's no question. They'd had that problem before. In fact, the Budok team house, which they eventually put the whole, pretty much all the structures underground because of the times they'd gotten hit. They had a piece of a C-130, what was left of it, because it had burned up, about the size of a door hanging on their team room. So it was not the first time that had happened. We were just lucky that we didn't burn in the situation.
Now, if we may continue talking about like across the fence operations, what do you say when you made visual contact with the enemy? Would you engage them more often than a recon team would, as opposed to just ignoring them?
Yeah, there's no question about that. That's what we were out there for. We were kind of out there to punch the bee's nest, so to speak. And then once we did that, then of course we call in air support.
So, well, those were generally harassment operations, right?
Yes, sir.
And over there, what NVA unit would you encounter? Sappers, transport, etc.?
Yes, all above.
Would you say they had difference in skills, like sappers to infantry?
Yes, I don't think there's any question, and I don't remember how you could tell the difference, but yeah, there's no question about them having different skills, but they were all well versed in the skill of war.
So that was the difference between the NVA and the NLF, like the VC structure.
VC, yes, yeah, certainly was.
Across the fence, you would just harass the enemy, and then how long would you stay across the fence before extracting?
Usually 7 to 10 days. Now, we did have one operation that was a stay-behind operation that we were out 30. And that was one that was run out that we infilled or inserted out of Budok.
And how much equipment would you carry on your person at a time? How many helicopters would you need to extract out of the AO?
Did you say extract?
Extract. How many aircraft would it take to extract?
Well, depending on the situation, but if they came in all at once, you'd need at least 10.
But if they came in, let's say, 2 at a time, what
depends on the size. Depends on the size of the LZ.
Yeah, and how many personnel would enter the aircraft if they were limited amounts of seats? Like what type of
You didn't
personnel?
worry, in that situation, you didn't worry about seats. You got on as many of the aircraft, number one, as you could, and number two, as the pilot would allow, depending on the weight.
All right. And will you say wounded would go first, of course, and then followed by
Of
other
course.
personnel?
And just like anything, and just like the recon team, we made sure that the yards were taken care of and got on first before we did.
And do you have any memorable yards on your Hampshire force or company?
Yes, I had a couple that I remember. I remember physically, but I don't remember what their names were. They befriended me because that's usually the way it worked. You had to make sure that you understood where they were coming from and that you had to have a good demeanor to work with them. They didn't take, they weren't beholden to guys that were, I don't want to say it, bullies, so to speak, to them.
And do you ever know what happened to these yards, or have you ever found out?
No, I have not specifically.
What do you think happened to them?
Well, I mostly figure that they got either they DD'd out of Vietnam and went their way into Cambodia or Laos or somewhere, or some of them, a number of the yards did end up in the United States. And I know that there were some from CCS.
And were there some who sadly had to enter, re-education camps?
Oh, I'm sure there were. There's no question about that. Unfortunately.
Have you been able to reunite with anyone in CCS that were indigenous?
Not on the indigenous side, no. Did have the fortunately was able to make contact with some yards up in Fayetteville that lived in the Bambi area and did work for CCS, but I didn't recognize them personally.
But yeah, that's sad that the yards weren't able to get access to you.
No, it was
anyway.
very sad. We were all very upset in '75 the way the war closed down, the way we left those young men behind, and of course their families. It will always be a knife in our gut for that.
And after the war, you would continue on and eventually be promoted to a command sergeant major. Am I correct?
Yes, I spent 37 years of total military service, 10 on active duty, and 27 basically in the Army Reserves. And I retired in officially in 2008 as a command sergeant major.
Well, we're running short of time, so
Okay.
I guess that's it. Have a good day, sir.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.